Today is May the 15th, known as Nakba Day, where we commemorate the violent ethnic cleansing of historic Palestine, whereby 750,000 Palestinians were driven violently from their ancestral homeland. Now, here are some facts I don't think have been shared widely enough. For example, during the process of the Nakba, where hundreds of thousands of people were driven away from their ancestral homeland, their communities, 15,000 to 30,000 Palestinians were killed in the process. Furthermore, military violence was not the only forms of violence that were enacted upon the Palestinian indigenous population. It was also biological violence in the form of poisoning of wells. So basically, the very infrastructure, the community life support system that was also affected, poisoned effectively, quite literally. Now, this was not a spontaneous event. The Nakba, in the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, was not a spontaneous reaction. It was a long time coming due to Zionism. Zionism, to sum it up, was concocted in 19th century in its political form by Theodor Herzl, where he openly talked about the emigration, the transfer of Palestinians from their ancestral homeland to create this Jewish supremacist state. Now, Theodor Herzl didn't want to claim Palestine for the reasons of indigeneity, or claiming it for ancestral reasons, because he talked about Palestine, or rather Israel, in his own mind, as being a Western outpost in Asia. So he was very much a Western supremacist in that form. He's a white supremacist. Now, this was not, this was not contradicted by the fact that, the Jewish Colonialism Association was also formed in the 19th century in order to take some land outside of Europe for their own. They looked at other nations such as Argentina, Uganda, but they settled on Palestine. Now, here's also the deepest irony, that this was also facilitated by the British Empire in the Balfour Declaration, which in a way formalized and set the political wheels for Zionism to enact and create and manifest the state of Israel, whereby essentially racist politicians wrote up a declaration to make this land, which was, and here's a deeply ironic thing here, and deeply, tragic thing. When the Balfour Declaration was formed in 1917, 90% of the people that were living on the land of Palestine were Arab, Muslims, and Christians. 97% of the people living, and 97% of the people who owned the land was Arab, Christians, and Muslims. So put that in your pipe. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And then you take into consideration that you have the 2 years later, after the Balfour Declaration, the World Zionist Organization mapped out what they wanted for the state of Israel, which was the entirety of Palestine, parts of Jordan, Syria, Egypt, and Lebanon. And so there was no regard for the people that were already living there. They wanted it for themselves, for their Jewish supremacist project. And so the question is asked, what's happening right now in the genocide of the people of Gaza? Of course, a large proportion of the people who were emptied of their homes in historic Palestine, in what we call modern day Israel, is not real. They sought refuge in Gaza, and now those descendants are being killed and smothered. But throughout this whole process, there was no regard for Palestinians as human beings. It was a Jewish supremacist project from the onset. And this is what we need to remind ourselves of. The genocide is merely an acceleration of the Nakba. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, well, rather learned something from this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated. Thank you.